Let's bring in our UK and Europe correspondent, Jonathan Sacerdoti, joining us live from London. Jonathan, nice to have you on the show. Let's start with this tough rhetoric from Moscow today. What's the latest in this diplomatic tit-for-tat over the poisoning?
Well, Michelle, the war of words continues, with the UK Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson reiterating the official British position that the Kremlin is to blame for the poisoning of Mr. Skripal, his daughter, and the policeman Nick Bailey. And as both countries expelled 23 of each other's diplomats, there seems to be a tense game of diplomatic chess taking place. Not referring specifically to the Salisbury incident, though, Mr. Putin did today seem to soften his tone just a little, saying that Russia wanted to build constructive relations with other countries, but that, quote, not everything depends on us. Russia will not, he said, instigate some arms race and will spare no effort to settle all disputes with our partners by political and diplomatic means. But whether or not that bears up in the future remains to be seen.
Right, Jonathan, meanwhile, over the weekend, the Russians said that they would expel 23 British diplomats, matching exactly the number of Russians booted out of the UK. What has the response been from London about that?
Well, some talk has emerged over the last few days, hinting at more than just those expulsions of diplomats. Boris Johnson, speaking today alongside the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, talked about, quote, how we go after the money that has been corruptly or illicitly obtained. So there are obviously more measures in preparation, with Britain contemplating how best to implement them and trying hard to build international support for them.
Speaking of international support, Jonathan, what's the latest from NATO on all of this?
Well, NATO has stood firmly beside Britain, and in that statement earlier, making their statements side by side, Boris Johnson and the Secretary General of NATO both said that they hold Russia responsible and expect Russia to cooperate with international chemical weapons investigators in this operation. They said that they wanted Russia to give precise and full details of their Novichok chemical weapons process and any stockpiles or creation of that chemical to the international investigators.
And as far as the investigation goes, Jonathan, we understand that police are now focusing on Skripal's car. Is that correct?
They are focusing on the car. Poison is believed to have been placed in the vents of the car, possibly blowing a powdered form into the car. Another car that you can see on the screen now has been taken away. That was taken away today, and that's another car which was the one to have taken Yulia Skripal from the airport to her father's home when she arrived in London. Other developments, of course, still see the police going through 4,000 hours of CCTV footage and going through the many, many witness statements that they've had, 762 possible pieces of evidence still to be processed.
A lot to go through, Jonathan. Appreciate the update. Thank you so much, Jonathan Sacerdoti, live from London.